All right, ladies and gentlemen, so we're going to do the fourth and final video for the Eyes of the Beast project. And what we're going to be doing is we are going to be coloring an eye. Now, this is a generic eye. It could be a cat, it could be a wolf, it could be an owl. I don't actually care enough. I drew it together really quick. But we're going to show you really quickly how to color this. Now, the thing about these eyes is I do not want them to be realistic colors. So if your animal's got brown eyes, well, that's just, yeah, I don't want brown. What I want is I want you to use 3 analogous colors. If you're not sure what analogous colors are, by all means, go back into your notes and double check that definition. If you Google it, you may end up with a definition that's not exactly accurate to art because those words mean multiple things. But you're going to use 3 analogous colors. So in my case, I think I'm going to do this particular eye with a violet, a red, and an orange. I might go into the yellow just a little bit, mostly because I feel like it, and honestly, there's no one to stop me. But we're going to use these 4. I'm going to use 4 colors, okay? And we're going to color this eye in using these really dramatic color. Another really good example would be a blue, a green, and a yellow. So I'm going to grab those out. I will do them off to the side. I may draw another eye if I'm feeling so inclined. I'm going to grab an extra blue just for reasons, and I think I'm going to probably use a different green, but I'm going to put these off to the side for right now. So let's talk a little bit about how an eye works. So for most animals, the eye is basically just a ball, okay? It has, and I'm going to draw this a little bit darker so you guys can see what I'm doing. It's basically just a ball. It has a clear area right here. This is actually what protects the pupil. That area is pretty well flat on the eyeball itself. And then you have a hole in your eye. This area right here, this is the iris. This is the part of your eyeball that gives you color. You have an eyelid up here. You have an eyelid down here. This is what you look at people with. It's not quite that protuberant, but it's easier for me to draw it. The pupil is actually a hole in the eye. It goes all the way back here to the retina, which connects down here at the lower end and runs up into your brain. Yoink, brain, so you can see things. Okay? But in this case, we're focusing on the iris and the pupil area, especially for animals because they don't generally show you the whites of their eyes unless they are experiencing extreme emotions such as anger or fear. But what we really want to look at is the fact that this is actually concave. That means it goes in. Okay, so not only is there a hole in your actual eye, which this protects things from flying in there, but this is concave. So what that means is that as light is coming down, the bottom of the eye gets all the light, and the top gets all the shadow. So that means that when you are coloring, the dark color should be on the top. So this, just looking at them here, I would definitely say that purple is the darker color. So you're going to start with the purple, and it's going to start like this. And when you do this with colors, what you want to do is you want them to fade out slowly. So if you feel like you need to practice blending, I would highly recommend that. You can do so on the back of your page. You can do so on another sheet. You can use the sketchbook section of your composition notebook. I don't actually care. Red is going to be the next color that I use. I'm going to actually start solid red right here after the purple. Okay? And I'm going to blend it up. And I'm doing this exact same gradient where it goes from darker to light, but I'm going into the purple at this point. So darker to light. And I'm going to stop before I get to the solid purple color. And then I'm going to blend it the other direction too. Just like that. And it's going to get lighter down here at the end. Oops. Colored it a little dark. I guess I'm going to have to blend that out a little bit. Oh no, it's so terrible. How dare I? It's like you can adjust things if you give it a second. I'm going to do orange next. Once again, I'm going to start with a solid orange down here where the red ends. And then I'm just going to slowly blend that back up. So it is also getting lighter as I get closer to the red. And it'll stop right before I get to the solid red. I'll bring that back down. And I'll go in the other direction as well. Now this is not the end of the blending. I can actually go back and forth with this, and I'm going to. I'm going to go back over the color. So I'm going to lighten that back up here. And I'm going to start with my yellow at the bottom, solid yellow here. And then I just drag this back up into that orange, and then back down. Okay? And then I can go back over with previous colors just to kind of continue blending it a little bit more so that those colors blend nicely. Generally speaking, you want to start with the lighter color and blend it darker. In this case, it is okay to blend the other way. Just understand you may have to work the color a little bit more to get it to work the way you want it to. So I'm going to bring this purple back down into the red a little bit. Bring the red back up into both sides because reasons. And I get a really nice kind of smooth gradient, shifting one color into the next, fading all the way down. Goals. But we're going to put it in the eyeball. This is going to be round. So this curving right here, what's going to actually happen as far as how this lays out is you've got your iris, you've got your pupil. This box, by the way, is reflected light. You want to kind of leave this in here blank for the time being. You can add a little bit more detail into that as you go, but you want to start with it laying blank. It just keeps it a little bit easier to deal with. We're doing the fast version. If you want more detailed eyes, that is something that comes way later. We are not aiming for realism. Lions aren't walking around with purple eyeballs. Let's be real. Okay? So we're going to have our dark area. I'm actually going to start by drawing the highlight area. So the lighter part of the eye, right down here on the bottom of the eyeball, is going to be right here. And it's going to look kind of like a kidney bean. So we're going to have a light area. Our shadow is going to set mostly right up here. The darkest spot is going to be directly underneath the eyelid. So that'll be a nice dark spot here. So this is going to be my violet. This is going to be my red. This is going to be my orange. And this is going to be my yellow. Okay? And for this case, I'm going to actually start with the yellow here. I'm going to start with the yellow right here in the highlight area. And this isn't going to blend well because I actually have these pencil marks. But I'm going to have yellow down here in this spot. I'm going to color that solid as all get out because I want to. I'm going to have orange hanging out right over here. I am not coloring this clearly. This is just to get this in here really quick. The red, wherever the heck that just went, here it is. I should probably just put the pencils down. And the violet. Yeah, no, that's too much. Let's try to be all silly. And the violet on the top. Now, this is not showing any blending. This is really just to kind of map how this goes because the colors are going to have to blend into each other. For example, the violet, I will eventually take it all the way around, almost to the bottom of the eyeball. The red, I will do the exact same thing with, where I just kind of tuck that around into this. Those colors are all going to have to blend together, but that's something that will build up. So I'm going to zoom in, right here into the big eyeball. I'm going to be following that exact same roadmap, but this time I'm going to draw it in the color pencils so I don't have to mess it up. So I got this nice yellow kidney bean looking thing hanging out over here. Notice that I'm not actually touching the pupil. This is going to have some of that layered darker color in it in order to get dimension. So I got this nice yellow going on in here. I'm going to have this almost solid around those lines. For emphasis, I'm probably going to leave the interior of that kidney bean white. So that means that my solid color for the yellow is actually going to be right there around that line, and it's going to blend back up, and it's going to blend down in just a little bit. Notice the colors that I'm, or the shape that I'm drawing as I do this is kind of circular. Excuse me. It's kind of circular. That helps kind of blend those colors so you don't end up with this awful streakiness that you guys like to color with. Please don't do that. Ew. I'm going to get the orange. The orange is going to be about right here. This is also going to be a little bit more of a solid color. So the solid is going to be right in this area, and I'm going to drag that down into the yellow gently. So I have to lighten it up as I go. I'm also going to go around the pupil. And I'm going to go around the outside of the iris. So I'm going to drag that down along that outside edge just a bit. Whee! Like so. And then I'm going to draw this back up. I'm going to curve that out a little bit more and let that orange kind of fade up into. Notice I'm not coloring in that rectangle. I'm just using it to kind of draw the color up in. Fade that around my edge. I tend to use curved lines. It helps emphasize the fact that this is actually a curved shape hanging out over here. Fade that out a little bit more. My solid red is going to exist right in here. And it's actually going to be behind the reflected light, so I'm going to layer that in a little bit. I'm also going to drag it around my pupil and just a little bit along the outside edge to kind of emphasize, again, the curvature in the eyeball. At this point, I need to blend it. So I'm going to kind of lighten it back down to where that orange, the solid orange is. Just bring that slowly back in. If I got to go back and forth and keep using the colors to blend one into the other, I'm going to go back and forth and blend those colors back in. I'm going to go the rest of the way around the pupil on this side, pull that up into around that corner here, blend this back down to that solid orange. And I'm just building it up, but I understand based on my yoink roadmap how I want that to go. Purple's the last color that I'm going to use in this case, and I want it to be super dark. Oh no, I colored over my rectangle shape. I'm going to change the shape a little bit to accommodate for that. It's weird. It's like, roll with it. I want the darkest part to be up here at the top of the eyelid. I do need to bring that down into this red a little bit on this side. I am going to curve it around the outside edge of the eyeball just a bit on both sides where it's nice and rich and kind of pulls that color down. I am going to add a little bit around my pupil. I will darken the pupil up a little bit later. But then I blur this down. Now notice I did not blur the red up. I will do that in a minute once I have all this done, because I want to make sure where my darkest purple is and how that kind of emphasizes on the way down. Okay? Because I really want that dark purple, because that's going to give me a lot of contrast. It's going to give me a lot of life. Red, rolled the other way. I'm going to bring that red back up into the purple on either side. And I'll probably bring the purple back down and around a little bit more. Okay, so we're going to bring this purple back down a little bit more. I'm going to bring it around the pupil a little bit more. And I'm going to curve it back around that outside edge of the eyeball. And we have a pretty clean blend. Once I pull that out, that's actually pretty nice and shiny. I can now come back over here with my pencil, and I'm going to darken the pupil back up. Fun thing about pupils is that they're actually a little bit darker on the outside edge because it is an actual hole in your eyeball. You might actually catch a little bit of the light shining off the back of the eyeball itself. So leaving it a little bit lighter in the middle actually makes it seem a little bit more realistic. Additionally, I'm going to darken all of this outside edge here of the eye itself just to kind of provide that extra contrast and make it pop out. I apologize, the classes outside are ridiculously loud. And we're just going to pull that out this way. So that, in a nutshell, is how you guys are going to color the eyes. You are not limited to the same color palette. You can use different colors. I do want a different green. I don't want that green. That green's too dark. I'm going to use this one. It's a little bit brighter. I can use a different color palette and achieve the same effect. So I can use blues and greens and yellows, and I can come over here and I'm going to start with the blue. And I'll just have that get a little bit lighter. I'm going to do an abridged version, so I'll do this really fast. I'm going to grab this other blue right here. Move. I'm going to grab this other bluey green right here because I want that smoother transition. So I'm not going to drop straight in. I'm just going to grab this turquoise. I'll blend that up into that darker blue. Like so. And I'll blend that down where it's going to go into the green. So lighten it up and let that go down to where the green's going to be. Green's going to start where that one ends. It's going to fade up into that turquoise. And it's going to fade back down into a lighter color. That lighter color being that same yellow because reasons. I'm not really sure what the reasons are. And that blends all the way back up too. Just like so. Now if you want to really push it, after you have these colors in here, you can actually add just a little bitty ring of lines just outside of the pupil. You can do that in pencil or you can do that in your dark color. I usually will do that in both. And I will have all these colors kind of come in here and blend in. Notice that my lines do not connect all the way across. While they do aim all the way across, like the spokes of a bicycle tire, they're not actually completing that area. But adding in that little bit of visual texture, and I'll build it up a little bit more as we go, but adding in that little bit of visual texture just kind of helps push that realism a little bit more. As far as the actual reflective light, you can add additional things in here. You can imagine the stuff that's off in the distance. Maybe he's looked up forests and trees and whatnot. This I highly recommend you actually looking at a reference image for, because it's actually pretty difficult to get this to read without a whole lot of practice. But you can add a little bit of texture into that reflected light. These lines right here, these ones are the ones that sell. And I can come back in, like I said, with that color that I used, the darker color. Oh, I think I grabbed the blue. Oh, well. And go back over that. And just kind of build those lines up a little bit. I'm not drawing really dark lines. I'm drawing a whole ton, but you get the idea. Pun intended. That said, ladies and gentlemen, y'all got a lot of work to do. Get it done.